Hello and happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. We are having a team training right now, and it's so much fun to get everyone together and just continue learning so we can best serve our students. I love when we do it. It's great team energy, and it just makes it so exciting to bring all of our new knowledge to our families later this week. Especially as we head into the long weekend. I want to start off by saying I hope everyone is staying healthy. I know we have a lot of kiddos back at school, and right now a lot of kiddos aren't feeling well, so I am sending you well wishes and hoping everyone gets back to feeling good soon. Today I wanted to talk about some of the barriers that our students come to us having and why we may see some of those things and how we can break through them. So one of the things that often we hear from families, especially at the beginning of the school year, is behavior. They start getting notes home from school again, calls from the teacher. Maybe they're seeing behaviors at home start to present themselves again because routine is back and expectations have increased again. But really what we want to get down to is, why are we seeing these behaviors? What is going on? We know that when the brain takes in information, we take it through our senses, right? We take in information through our eyes, our ears, smell, our taste, our body, how we feel. All of that plays a huge role in how we control our behavior. So I'm going to give you a scenario. If you were to close your eyes right now and I tell you to picture yourself sitting on the beach with a nice gentle breeze, it's 75 degrees out, you hear the waves crashing on the beach, you have an ice cream cone in your hand, you can smell the sunscreen lotion. It's all a wonderful picture, right? It's a great picture in our head, and we can feel all of those good emotions tied to all of that sensory information. And if we are at that day right now, it's going to be a good day, right? But if I were to tell you to close your eyes again and you're at the beach and there is a seagull right next to you, constantly bugging you, right? You're trying to get your food. You are right next to a dumpster that smells awful. You have sand all stuck to your sunscreen, all stuck to your body, and the water is freezing cold and it's starting to rain on you. That is a totally different reaction that we have to that environment. And so what comes into play is our senses. When we take information in through our senses, we produce a motor output. And there are a lot of pieces in development that play into that motor output, but when we break it down, it's sensory information in and a motor output is the result. But if we don't have control over our senses, then we're gonna have a hard time controlling our body and our behavior. But with that being said, we want to develop control over those senses. We want to be able to take in information appropriately for us to be able to pay attention in class and not hear everything, not hear the air conditioner while the teacher is talking. We want to be able to sit and listen and not feel our clothing or the clothing tag on our back while the teacher is talking. All of those things are going to play a role. We want to sit in the cafeteria and be able to eat lunch and not be overwhelmed by the smell of all the different foods in the cafeteria. Those are very real sensory responses that some of our kids have. And so what we want to do is we want to evaluate, where are their senses functioning? Are there areas that we need to focus in and make work together? Sometimes what we find is that there are senses that are working really high and others that aren't working very well. And so it's not balanced. And so the reaction you get when you're not taking in appropriate sensory information is not going to be a behavior that is 100% function, right? If I am taking in really loud noises, I can't focus on what the teacher is saying because all I can hear is the kid behind me, and I can't filter out what's important versus what is not. And the kid next to me has a snack that I don't like the smell of. I'm not going to be able to focus, right? I'm not going to be able to be at 100%. But if I can do that, then I'm going to have a much better chance of being able to focus in class. So when we're diving into the root of these barriers of behavior, it's important for us to take into all of this into account, but then also look at, where is their body awareness? How can they control their body? Do they have control over their reactions? Or is there a push and pull somewhere in development, somewhere in the brain that we need to go back and focus in on? So when we're evaluating behavior, it's important for us to look at all of those aspects to be able to come up with a good solution that's going to be a long-term fix. A lot of the times we come up with, strategies and ways that we can help with these behaviors, and they do work. But once we can get to the root, those things are going to be so much easier, and we're not going to need to strategize as much because we're developing the function that the brain needs in order to have that fluid motor output to appropriate sensory information. And then we go to academics. If they're struggling with reading, is it that they can't track their eyes when they're going across the page? Is it that it's poor reading comprehension? Maybe they have great memory, but reading comprehension is poor because they're constantly rereading. Are their eyes able to work together? If our eyes aren't able to work together, we're gonna have a really hard time being able to follow where we need to and then be able to process the information that we're seeing. So when it comes to academics, we wanna understand where is the breakdown happening in development of how we're reading, how we're learning, how we're processing information, because until we can do that, we aren't going to be able to keep reteaching. Sometimes we have kids who come to us and they've done a lot of tutoring, or they go over their homework step by step over and over, and it's just not clicking. And sometimes that's usually it's because there's a breakdown happening in the brain and how the brain is interpreting that information, and that all comes down to development. So we can go over the information, go over it, but we may not get it to stick like we want it to. But once we start addressing those areas in development that we need in order to be able to function and read and take in what we're learning and utilize the strategies that are helping us learn or helping us improve, it's not going to be as successful because there's still something holding us back. So we want to get rid of the Band-Aid fix of trying to keep up and get to the root so that we have this long-term solution, and we're not needing to keep up all the time because our brain is capable of keeping up the first time. That's the goal. So if you're noticing that your child is struggling with that, then I do encourage you to reach out, because we can make a plan to make sure that they get the development they need in order to utilize these strategies that you're doing and you're giving them appropriately. Because it may just be there's a barrier that we need to break through in order for them to be able to perform the way we want them to. And then social skills. So I recently had a family come in, and he has been losing some friends lately, and it's because of his emotional responses to situations. And a lot of it has to do with his perception of the situation. And when we look at development, we're seeing that there are a lot of areas that just need boosting up because he's not perceiving the big picture of it, and his processing faster than he's taking it in, so he's responding quicker than he wants to. So he feels really bad after something may happen with a friend, but unfortunately it's one of those things where it's like, dang it, it's too late and I've reacted. And again, goes back to sensory information in, motor output, right? That response, that reaction. So now that we're going to be able to develop these areas he needs in order to take information in appropriately, he's going to have an efficient motor output, an efficient response to a situation that's appropriate. That is the way that he's capable and we want him to react in social situations. It's going to be able to help him read social cues and create long-lasting friendships and maintain those friendships, because that's just as important as being able to make new friends. So when we look at social skills, there are a lot of components that do come into play. Awareness, right? Awareness of how I'm feeling so that I can understand how you're feeling. Awareness of, am I standing right up in your face? Or am I overthinking situations because I'm not fully processing what's happening, and now I'm nervous that I did something wrong, right? All these things come into play, and until we can look at how the brain is making sense of that and the development of those functions we need, we're not going to be able to appropriately address it 100% the way we want to. So that's really what our goal is. So this school year, if any of those things are barriers or things that you know your child is good at but could be even better at, then I encourage you to reach out to us, because our goal is to help you make a plan that's going to target that development that we need in order to reach that 100%, right? That 100% appropriate response. And that 100% appropriate response is called executive function. It's our ability to make decisions, control our emotions. It's our ability to weigh consequences, multitask, be able to do things without being told. It's really good behavior in knowing the consequences of right versus wrong and not having to think through it. All those things that we want for our children is that motor output, right? And so if we're not taking in information correctly, or we're not processing it correctly, we're not going to have the response we want them to have. And so we got to go back into development and make a plan that's going to boost that up for them. So I wanted to share with you guys one of the awesome changes that we had a student fill out. He is 16 years old. He actually has finished the program, and this is one that he filled out towards the end of his program. He is now driving. He has his car. He will be taking his driving test soon. He's doing well in school. When he came, behavior and academics were a struggle for him. Socially connecting with other kids was not as easy for him. But throughout program, as he developed the functions, he became more confident, and he started trying new things and developing the functions that he needed that were age appropriate. And now he is doing phenomenal, and we're really proud of him. But his awesome changes that he wrote are the breakthroughs that we want when we go through these barriers. They're the breakthroughs of that executive function, that appropriate output to situations. So his awesome changes here, he wrote increased intuition, because he trusted himself to understand what was happening in a situation and how he should respond to it, which is a huge thing for someone to be able to realize development and change in, because that's only going to allow him to take on more because he trusts himself, he feels confident in his ability, and then it's going to allow him to have more responsibility too. His second one was comprehending complexity. This is related to school, emotions, social situations, just understanding situations that are not black and white and being able to see the gray area. That's huge. We have a lot of kids who come in and are very literal because it's hard for them to see the gray area because things are black and white just for the way that they're interpreting information. And there's nothing wrong with that except for the fact we want them to be able to have that gray area. And for some kids, it's just harder. So for him, having that gray area now allows him a lot of flexibility and understanding. We have kids who come in and it'll be let's say it's 2:12, right? And we say it's 10 after 2. And it's 2:12. Because they don't have that gray area developed just yet. And we want them to be able to take that situation and apply it to daily life situations. If I say I'm going on a trip let's say I'm going for 3 weeks on a trip and I say I'll be gone for about a month. I want to know that that means 3 weeks to 4 weeks, right? And we take those things sometimes without thinking that. Some of our kids don't realize that, but if they don't have the ability to see that complexity, to weigh those options and to weigh what could happen in between, it's going to be difficult for them to wrap their brain around, right? And so it may look like they're being argumentative or defiant in correcting or saying what they're saying, but in reality, we need to develop how they're perceiving information and how that makes sense to them so that they've got the awareness of, what is really going on. And then his third one was enhanced peripheral vision, which is huge because you need peripheral vision in order to drive. You can't get behind the wheel and not use your peripheral vision. When I'm driving down the road, I can see the cars that are beside me, right? I can see what's going on, and I'm using my peripheral vision to make sure that I'm in my lane and that I'm keeping up with the speed of traffic. And then when I put my blinker on and I check my blind spot, I'm still using my peripheral vision to make sure I'm on track where I'm going, but I'm using my peripheral vision to help me guide where I'm going to go next. And so the fact that he increased that and recognized it was awesome, and that was a stepping stone to being able to start driving. If he didn't have that peripheral vision developed, driving wouldn't be easy for him, right? It wouldn't be safe for him. He wouldn't be ready for that. So that's pretty awesome. And then his fourth one was quicker processing. When he would sit in class and he would learn and he would have a lecture, it would take him a long time to understand what he was learning, right? He would have to go over and over and over because it wasn't clicking. He needed to hear it a couple of times because it was hard for him to keep up and process as the teacher was still going. So imagine if you're almost 3 words behind what I'm saying now, but I keep going. That's what it was like for him. It was hard. He was missing information, and so he had to work harder in order to process what people were saying, even in daily conversations, right? And back and forth conversations, to be able to process what we're talking about and keep up and have a back and forth. That's really important too. And then his last one was improved social skills. He made so many friends when he was here in program. It's really awesome. We have so many kids here that they're just, of course, shining stars, but the connections that they form with one another is so fun to watch because they all push each other to be better, right? And this is just one example of the awesome changes that we have. We have them all strung along the front, and I think every week I'm gonna go through an awesome changes sheet at the end just so you guys can hear some of the things our kids are sharing because I think they're fun. But the social connections that our kids make when they're here are so fun because they're natural, but they're pushing themselves to be better and they're meeting each other where they're at. It's a safe place for them to make a friendship and make a connection. So he was in a group with some of the older kids, and then one of our students who we call the biggest little kid we've ever met. He loved hanging out with the big kids because he liked to push himself and keep up. And all of the other students with him were wonderful, including this one, with keeping him encouraged and being good role models. And so it was really beneficial for all of them. But we had a student who he was paired with come back a couple weeks ago, and he asked, "Where's my friend? Is he still here?" And so we got to share the awesome things that both of them were up to with one another, and the smile on their face from pride because they were so proud of their friend was awesome. But then when they come back and visit and they see the other students that they've seen in the past, it's really fun to watch because those relationships are now maintained and long lasting, and they're able to form those relationships not only here but at school and at home. At home is a big one. One of my favorite things to watch evolve and change is relationships with siblings or parents as our students start to understand social cues and feel comfortable about how they feel and understand how someone else is feeling. That is a fun thing to watch develop and change. I know I tell this story a lot, but my favorite story is when we had a student who told his mom one day, "Mom, why are your eyebrows like that?" when she was upset with him. And she just kind of lost it because she's like, that was the first time he's ever noticed my facial expression and knew something was different and right and something was wrong, and that I was feeling something because of the way that he was behaving, right? Or that reaction. And it immediately changed their relationship because he started to understand her emotion and they were connecting socially because he could pick up on those cues. So I love these awesome changes, and I hope this is helpful in helping you understand kind of that root of these barriers that our students have. They look like these big functions on top, but until we develop all of the other areas in that developmental pyramid we talk about, we're not going to see that 100% change that we want to see in those executive functions if there are any barriers holding them back. We want our kids to be successful. So if you notice there is a little barrier somewhere, let's get to the root of it. Let's look at the development of the brain and that function, and then let's make a plan to fix it so that your child can be a game changer and have their best year yet. So I hope everyone has a great long weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.